never thought that I would fall this deeply in love again with Star Wars. But here we are. Here we are in the future watching AHSOKA, which I think perfectly embodies everything that I love about Star Wars. I feel weird that I took my glasses off now, so I think I'm just gonna put them back on. Okay, we're gonna do what we normally do. We're gonna start with a little synopsis of what happened, which will be shorter this episode, because this episode is my review. Episode 6 of AHSOKA review. It'll be a shorter synopsis because not as much happened in terms of, like, I guess just physically this episode, but there were a lot of deep conversations to be had, so we'll touch on that. It's what makes the episode really good, actually, I think. And a bit of action. We love a bit of action. So the episode starts off with AHSOKA talking to Hu Yang and admitting that she is aware that Sabine went with Baylan willingly, and she decided to actually withhold that information from Hera because, well, I mean, it doesn't look good. Like, let's be real. It doesn't look good. But perhaps acknowledging that that was what was destined to happen, which is interesting. And Hu Yang is basically like, that's very nice, but why don't I tell you a story? And so that is what ends up happening. Initially, I think Ahsoka's like, I don't want to hear a story, but then she changes her mind. And so we get a story in a galaxy far, far away. So maybe Hu Yang was the narrator of this series the whole time. We don't know. And then boom, right into title card. And from there, we move over to Baylan and Shin and Elsbeth, and Sabine, who are arriving on the original planet, I believe, of the Night Sisters. Their original homeworld, which is in obviously a different galaxy than the one we're used to. So this is not Dathomir. This is what existed before Dathomir, where everyone was before that. And apparently they rode the space whales and then came to the other galaxy, the Purgil. I don't know if that's how we say that, but that's how I want to say it. Purgil. As we arrive on the planet, we also find out that, yes, Thrawn is alive, and it turns out that he basically made a partnership with the Great Mothers, who originally would have ruled the Night Sisters, to get help. And they reached out to Elsbeth, who is also a Night Sister, obviously, in the other galaxy, one of the few, I'm sure, that are still alive. She came here, and so it all worked out. It all works out in the end for good old Thrawn. Oh, we're going to talk about Thrawn. Oh, I can't wait to talk. I can't wait to talk with you. We also get to meet Thrawn's army of troopers, who look like they've been through, like, hell. They've been to hell and back. They still have their armor. It's all patched up. It looks super cool. It apparently is inspired by a Japanese style of, like, pottery repair. And that is basically what's happening with these troopers, but they did it with, like, gold, so their armor looks super cool. We're also introduced to Enoch, who is basically like Thrawn's right-hand man, it seems, with the troopers. Surprisingly, Thrawn does decide to keep up his end of the bargain, and by his, I mean really Baylan's end of the bargain, but he decides to deliver on it, agreeing to basically send Sabine out onto the planet to find Ezra, giving her supplies, giving her information as to the last known coordinates that they had for Ezra. He's like, I mean, he's probably dead, but, like, you can go look if you want. And so she's like, yeah, I'm gonna go look. And he's like, I mean, you jeopardized all of your galaxy, you know, making this choice. Trying to make her feel guilty. And she's like, yeah, I don't care. I'm gonna go find Ezra. So she heads out to go find Ezra with a howler that she gets to take with her, who is, I feel, initially I was like, this is creepy. And then I was like, this guy's super cute. So she's riding what is known as, I believe, a howler, according to the closed captions on the episode. However, even though Thrawn seemingly is keeping his end of this deal that Baylan made, he then also decides to send out Baylan and Shin to track Sabine, and when or if she finds Ezra, to basically eliminate the both of them. And that way they're like, we keep our deal. Technically, she does get to find Ezra if he's around to find. And, you know, and then they die, which, you know, wasn't necessarily part of the deal, but we didn't say we weren't going to do that, so technically it's all right. Shin seems a little apprehensive about all this, and we kind of touch on that a little bit more later with some character development of hers in this episode, but I'll talk about that in a bit. Thrawn makes some plans to return back to his galaxy, obviously. He starts loading up his ship with crates of stuff. Kind of looks like, I don't know, like coffins to me. I don't know what's in there. It could be anything, really. Maybe some powerful thing that's on this planet. Hot on the trail of Sabine, Baylan and Shin have a little conversation as they're tracking her, where we get to learn a little bit about both of their motivations. I mean, throughout the episode, really, but especially in this conversation. And the one thing we especially get to learn, which I thought was super interesting, is we get more perspective for Baylan and more insight into his ideology and the way he kind of like sees the world, why he does what he does. And in the end, Sabine does end up making some friends and, of course, finds Ezra. Live action Ezra. I don't know why I said it like that. Oh my gosh, I'm embarrassed. Live action Ezra Bridger is here. He's arrived, and it's pretty exciting. Before we talk about this next part, I gotta tell you something really important. I do memberships on this channel, and you can get little perks each month. We do a bunch of members-only videos, and I would love for you to check it out. And it just kind of started, so get in early, because you can be one of the OG Golden Fang Gang members. Check out the memberships. Link in the video description. Or you can just like click it. It's like below somewhere. It's like over here or something. Or over here. Somewhere over here. This episode for me was probably... I don't know, it's really hard. I want to say this is my favorite episode so far. But then last week's episode happened and like... maybe that was my favorite one so far. I don't know. Every episode is basically, I feel like, just getting better. And this one had Baylan. So I think this one is actually like a real 10 out of 10. Like an 11 out of 10? Because it's got Baylan in it. And Baylan is amazing. The opening of this episode was, to me, was flawless. I loved the conversation between Ahsoka and Hu Yang. And I just feel like everyone in this series, all the actors are so good. They play so well off each other. There's amazing chemistry in the show. And I'm just imagining being on this set must have been so fun and so amazing. That's what it seems like, just based on how people interact. I don't know if it's true, but I mean, what's not to love? Everyone here is crushing it. Straight up crushing it. I thought it was the perfect opening to the episode. I loved how we just sort of segued into, you know, that far away, like, little story. I thought that was so cute and so... I don't know. Just, like, as the title card came up for Ahsoka, I was just like, this is what Star Wars is. This is what I want. When I think Star Wars, this is what I want. This is perfect. Some things that this show just really touches on that I think is highlighted as well in this episode, other than the acting, is atmosphere, scale, design choices. I mean... the worlds, the way they're built, the fact that there are whale bones that are the ring for the planet that we go to with Elsbeth and Baylan is what a cool choice. It's so good. And the creature design, I mean, just everything. Thrawn's ship coming in and lowering over the tower that they're on, the scale of everything. It just feels massive. It feels like Star Wars. Even when they were on the deck of the ring, the hyperspace ring or the hyperdrive ring or whatever we call that, that Elsbeth is manning to bring to the planet and everything. When she's like, okay, well now we're gonna like go down to the world, I was just like, this feels so big and so Star Wars and so grand. It's just really well done from a design standpoint. And I just want to say thanks for that, Ahsoka. This team did amazing. Also, it's interesting that we're going to the original homeworld of the Night Sisters, because for those that don't know, General Grievous apparently like killed all of the Night Sisters in the galaxy. That's what he was supposed to do. I guess obviously a few, I would imagine, would slip through the cracks. I mean, it's a big galaxy. But then of course the Great Mothers were in a different galaxy, so I guess they, you know, got free of that. And any other, I guess, Night Sisters that might be surviving on the planet would still be around. But it seems like, you know, for the most part, we haven't really seen any other ones, so. Also, the troopers that Thrawn has, and Thrawn himself, and all of that is fantastic. The way the troopers are designed, the fact that they literally feel like Roman legionnaires in terms of their loyalty and how like hardened they seem to be just based on our introduction to them and their appearance, and how that all speaks volumes. Like, they don't need to say anything. It's like a visual This show is so powerful for visuals. It understands the power of film, and it also is willing to, like, I just feel like trust the performers. Also, I love it because it's like another connection for me to Rome, which obviously, as you know, I need to now talk about because of Ray Stevenson's passing, and because he's Balin and he's amazing in this, and because Rome is amazing. So look at that. More connections that we're drawing friends. One of the lead troopers is also named Enoch, which I believe basically means like the voice of God, like the person that's like speaking for God, which would make sense as Thrawn's right-hand man. It also shows, with the name Enoch, potentially how the troopers really see Thrawn as like this godlike figure, which honestly fair. Thrawn is amazing, and I love his look. I'm so glad. I feel like it looks so much better than the trailer and the first look that we got at him, so they nailed that. Thrawn is just a cool character because I feel like he can make a deal with anyone. Like, I feel like if you're making a deal with the Great Mothers, you are crazy in diplomacy, and yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if there's more alliances in this that we're going to see of Thrawn's that he got perhaps from being on this world. I don't know if the Night Sisters are the only ones, but I guess we'll find out. When Sabine leaves, there's also a fight. There's not a lot of fighting in this episode, but one of the fights that we get is very messy in like the best way. It's like Sabine getting basically ambushed by a bunch of like raiders on the road after she leaves Thrawn, and it just felt so like dirty and messy, and I was like, I love how disjointed this fight feels, but it's still clear. None of this shaky cam business. Still clear as day, and it's just like Sabine trying to hold her own against like 6 or 8 people is what it felt like. Speaking of Sabine, the conversation her and Ezra are going to have next episode. Oh boy, I'm ready. I'm ready to hear that. I feel like that's going to be really, really interesting. I love how Ezra's like, so how'd you get here? And she's like, let's talk about that later, because then I have to tell you everything with Thrawn. And he's like, but what I did worked, right? Like, it was a crazy plan, but it worked. And she's like, yeah, technically. Until I ruined it. Oops. Oh boy, Sabine's in trouble. The conversation that Balin and Shin have, I think, is just so interesting. I think both of their characters and their relationship, to me, it was the most fascinating thing about the entire episode. I just love learning more about them, and I love how Balin is this type of character that we don't often see. Like, actually, it's interesting because Balin, to me, feels a lot like AHSOKA. AHSOKA is also someone that was part of the Jedi Order, left it, questioned everything because she was like basically having like a crisis of faith with the Jedi Order. Balin kind of seems like he has a similar thing going on. They both have different perspectives, but they're both really similar. And it's interesting that they're also, you know, technically both enemies, but you can tell kind of reluctant enemies. And I just feel like Balin as a character that is a former Jedi, but who isn't Sith, is so interesting because so many of the Jedi that aren't Jedi end up like going with the Sith, and I just feel like we don't explore a lot of other options for former Jedi. So it's cool to see that explored more, and I just think the acting with the story for the character just make the character straight like fire. Like, it's just so good. It's such a bummer that Ray Stevenson won't be around to continue to play this character if the character is still around by the end of the season. It's such a bummer. It's so good. So talented. But yeah, I really enjoyed Balin and Shin in this episode and kind of seeing their relationship. Seeing how Shin, when Balin kind of explains his motivations and dives into the fact that he saw the repetitiveness, the cycles of, you know, it's the Jedi and then it's the Sith and this like wheel that keeps turning, and he just wants to break the wheel because he just sees like a cycle of pain. Whereas Shin is thought that they were in it for the power, and then upon realizing that they're not, is kind of like questioning Balin wanting to break the wheel because I don't think she fully understands like how that makes the world any better. And to be fair, I think she has a point. So it's kind of cool to see a little bit more insight into her character. And I hope we get to see more of that because I think her character is like really interesting and still super mysterious. I want like a Balin and Shin comic that I can read. Like, get me that Star Wars comic. Like, we got Dark Droids, we got Star Wars, we got Darth Vader, but where's the Balin and Shin comic? You know? They also refer to, Balin mentions that there's power on the planet and asks Shen if she can feel it. He's like, it's like crazy, right? There's like something calling us. And I don't know what that is, but I suspect it might be what Thrawn is loading onto his ship. Guess we'll find out later. The creature designs in this are also really good. The Howler. I also really loved the Nodi, the alien race that we see on the planet, or the Nodi. I'm going to say Nodi. Nodi sounds kind of weird. The Nodi. But yeah, to me, I think this episode kind of sums up what I'm really loving about the whole series, which is just that it feels really Star Wars. Like, it feels like original trilogy to me. It's that balance of great story, amazing and wondrous atmosphere and design, and like fabulous acting. And I think the thing too is I would even say the scripts for the original trilogy, the actual like script isn't that amazing. The story and the way that the actors deliver everything is what really makes it pop. And the characters, you know, like the characters are all great. And this is a show that has amazing characters and a good story, and it's just popping with the acting. The acting is really good. Dang. Well, we have got a few episodes left, so I guess let's see where it goes. I imagine it's going to be getting really epic really fast. So next episode's probably going to be bonkers. I can't wait to see what happens when AHSOKA arrives, especially considering that Thrawn clearly is going to be ready for her, because he is not ready to say that she's dead. Thrawn is just too good. That's the problem. I don't know how they're going to beat him, to be honest. He's so good. They got lucky last time, is basically how I feel about it. All right, friends, that's it for me. I've talked for far too long, so that's all I have to say for this episode. I'll see you next episode. I can't wait. Until then, stay nerdy.